Hey everybody, it's Josh Rutledge, your co-host for FearScape Paranormal Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to support us more, please head over to our website, fearscapepodcast.com. There you can click on store and browse some really awesome t-shirts and maybe pick a couple up, or even go to our Patreon page and see how you can support us monthly. We love bringing you awesome content just as much as you like listening to it. Enjoy the show.
Hello. I'm so glad you could join us. I hope you brought your blanket to hide under. The spooky crew is going to discuss things and events from other realms. Ghosts, cryptids, aliens. Be sure to hold your blanket extra tight as the boys take you deep into the FearScape.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another psychically awesome episode of FearScape Paranormal Podcast. I am your host, Stefan Gearhart, and I'm so excited to be here today. I am joined, as usual, by my psychically fit co-host, Mr. Josh Rutledge.
Well, I'm glad that some part of me is fit.
Yes, you have been exercising your mental awareness.
Yep.
And it shows, my friend. The pecs on your brain are stout.
It reminds me of the alien guys from Star Trek, the original series, like the big head.
Oh yeah, the big-headed ones.
But when they're thinking real hard, like their head throbs.
Yeah,
like that's what I think about when you say the pecs on my brain.
Pretty much. We have a very, very exciting episode. We've been alluding to it, and in fact, last week we said that we would be here in 2 weeks. Well, we decided to jump the gun and jumped now. We got a chance to interview Mr. Alan Greenfield himself.
I think it's Dr. Alan Greenfield.
The Reverend Dr. Tao, Dr. Suffragette Bishop, Alan Greenfield.
Yeah, most people who have a doctorate want to be referred to as doctor.
Yeah,
I think. He's
amazing. That's all I need to say.
Yeah.
We had such a great time with him that we've had to break it up into 2 episodes. So we're going to be, today is going to be part 1 of his interview. And for those of you that don't know who we're talking about, if you've watched Hellier, he is the guy that wrote The Complete Secret Cipher of the UFOnauts, had the interview with Terry Wrist, and is just a fantastic ufologist that,
but so much more than Hellier.
Oh, for sure.
It's like saying that Mothman was the movie.
Right. Oh, good God, no.
So,
but this guy ran around with the likes of Gray Barker and John Keel and those guys. He has some really fantastic stories about all those guys and Moseley and all of them. And
all in all, it was a great interview. Thoroughly enjoyed myself. Felt more like a discussion.
Oh yeah.
Than an interview per se. But yeah, I mean, I think that you all will be happy
and
to
entertained.
hear.
I mean, if anybody is a huckster and a jokester like we are, it's Alan.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that more than anything, was just the absolute fun we had. But we're going to get to part 1 here shortly. But let's go ahead and move into our segments so we can get through the day and get straight to AG. So our first segment, as usual, is the psychic word of the week.
And now, the psychic word of the week.
All right, so of course we've got our psychic word out of the Encyclopedic Psychic Dictionary from June Bletzer, rest in peace, honey buns. The word that we flipped to today was understanding. Now, this isn't the Oxford Dictionary, so let's see what it has to say in terms of psychic awareness. So immediately, and I'm not sure what this means, in parentheses it says Wang Yang Ming, And that to me just sounds like a porn star. So we'll go on and see. And it's in quotation, so this Wang Yang Ming may have been the person that quoted this.
Maybe.
But it says, that which is converted, knowledge which is converted into which is his own, the ability to use knowledge received in its right perspective and to feel comfortable with it.
So it's the difference between knowing the path and walking the path, to quote the Matrix. But it's very much having knowledge versus accepting knowledge as wisdom, maybe, or to put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very cool to think of it that way. And it also makes me think about there's a book, and I cannot remember the name of it, but it basically is like the human race sets out to find and colonate other worlds.
To colonize,
colonize, and so the plan is that they're going to find worlds that already have a primate species. And they have this specially formulated genetic stuff that they basically send down to the planet that has a primate that forces a advanced evolution of the primate into humans. Then they go back and meet their human brethren and teach them all the things that they need to know. So that's kind of the premise of the book.
Interesting.
Well, one of the things that happens is they act like one of the ships comes under fire. It gets, because there's people who don't want them to do that. Anyways, long story short, they accidentally do that on a planet that is mainly inhabited with spiders.
Oh, no.
So you get these like large, super smart spiders.
Like, spider rainbows. That's what we call foreshadowing.
Yeah. So one of the things that takes place all through the book is the spiders, every time they pass down the knowledge of what they learned from the previous generation, they call it an understanding. And so, like the one generation of spider knew how to spin a web, that generation of spider learned how to also spin a net. So when they passed on to their offspring, they passed on the understanding of learning how to spin a net. Later on in their culture, in their evolution, they actually figured out how to create certain chemicals that would, like, as soon as they were taken in from the various spiders, would automatically have the understandings of all the previous generations. So, like, it's
well, in a way, it's like that genetic memory or oral traditions as well.
So it's just interesting. Again, I thought it was interesting related to that book that I'd read a couple of years ago. but yeah, so understanding is just that continuation of not only knowing the knowledge, but knowing the knowledge is a little different. But anyways, but accepting it as
right, because knowing is half the battle,
or 3/4 in today's world.
Yeah. So I looked up Wang Yang Ming. Wang Yang Ming is a famous Chinese calligrapher, military general, but is mostly known as a philosopher. And he lived between 1472 and 1529. And so I'm sure we'll probably come across his name probably again in this book as a philosopher.
He was alive when Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
Yeah. In 1492. Bring your diseases, Columbus.
Yeah.
Anyways, so that's our psychic word. We actually had a word this week for psychic word of the week, which is
phrase.
Understanding. And it's, again, ironic that we're speaking to Alan Greenfield today, who has given us some understanding.
It definitely is a fitting word for the subject.
Yep. So let's go ahead and get things moving, and let's move right into this week's spooky news. So this week's spooky news is kind of creepy and weird, and I've seen it, and the article I have comes from Fox News, which isn't, in my opinion, the most trusted news source, but I did look, and it is across the board most news sources. This headline reads, this is 4 days ago, it says, mysterious gel-like substance discovered on the far side of the moon has been identified. So it says scientists have identified a strange gel-like substance that was discovered on the far side of the moon. The material was found last year during China's Chang'e 4 mission to the moon. Citing the Chinese language publication Our Space, Space.com reports that the matter was indeed gel-like. In a paper published in the Journal of Earth and Planetary Sciences, researchers described the substance as dark greenish and glistening impact melt breccia. That's BRECCIA. I'm not sure what that is. China even posted on Twitter something that says the U-22 rover, part of China's Chang'e 4 mission, has discovered an unusually colored gel-like substance during its exploration on the far side of the moon. Mission scientists are now trying to figure out what the mysterious material is. Impact melt breccia, which is that word again, is a type of lunar rock formed from asteroids striking the surface of the moon. Now, in this paper, the scientists explained that the substance discovered by Chang'e's 4 mission's U-2 rover is similar to 2 melt breccia samples returned from the moon by NASA's Apollo 15 and Apollo 17 missions. And in a separate project, scientists have used radar technology to shed new light on the subsurface of the moon.
So see, that's the part that I want to hear about.
Nope.
What's the radar technology?
Good night. Bye.
Yeah.
Sorry, secret space program. You
drop it at the end of an article and don't say anything about it.
Thanks, Fox News.
So,
but yeah, you can see that was also on space.com and a number of other places. It did hit Reuters and stuff like that. So what is it? Like, I mean, that place looks like the most dry ass place.
I know.
And to have some like shiny green substance, you're like, I saw the blob, but the blob was pink, so I'm not sure what this is.
Well, you know, if you think about the whole thing with the secret space program and the fact that one of their kind of big things is that there is like an entire civilization or port or something like that on the dark side.
And of course, don't forget, we made the moon ring. That's legit in modern news that exists.
Not like a ring you can wear on your finger that tells you what mood you have.
They bombed the surface essentially, and a ringing noise that lasted 8 hours.
Bong. So yeah. But one of the, so it's possible that gel-like substance is not breccia or whatever that they said it was, but actually some sort of fuel that was leaked onto the surface or
waste.
Alien blood or who knows what.
Nuclear waste.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be anything. Or God's boogers.
Yeah. Maybe the rover sneezed.
Yes, maybe. But yeah, very, very interesting. I hope that they follow up. I hope this isn't it was a short story, so that always makes me fearful that we're not going to hear about it anymore.
Yeah.
But I hope to find out what it is, and, dig a little deeper, pun intended. So, but yeah, that's our spooky news for the week. Cause, the far side of the moon. I'm glad some other countries are still working on the moon, because we sure aren't.
Yeah.
So, well, at least not on the books.
No, yeah, not not publicly.
Right. But I'm glad somebody is. So, but yeah. So if you're ready, speaking of outer space, we can move right into the UFO sighting of the week. All right, so Josh, what do we got? What sighting do we have this week besides the one I'm going to share in Creepy Ketchup?
So this actually comes from newfork.org.
God bless you.
Thank you. And it stands for the National UFO Reporting Center, in case anybody was curious. And this happened in West Abington Township, PA. This is happened at about 7 seconds on July 9th, 2020 at 12:50 a.m. So it says, I was riding on my road when I noticed a dark-colored object in the sky not more than a mile out. It was headed west across the road, and it looked as if it was engulfed itself in flames and started accelerating slowly and then took off like a rocket. It didn't travel far before it vanished in an almost blinding light. The strangest part was for how bright the flash was. It was almost contained, and it did not illuminate anything around. It left a trail of falling flames that sparkled like sparklers. It moved so fast and so unnatural. After the flash, though, it had vanished completely. It was beautiful, but I honestly have never worried or been unsure. If what I saw can be explained by natural phenomena, I need to know.
Whoa. That was a lot because, of course, we're looking in July towards the 4th of July. So,
Right.
of course, our first thoughts are, is this fireworks? But
Right.
that's not fireworks.
That's not fireworks.
No.
That would be, the only way that potentially could be fireworks, which somebody may have done this, would be to hook like a Roman candle to a drone, fly the drone into the air, and then ignite the Roman candle. Which that would be a lot to do. That could potentially explain what this guy's seeing, but that's a lot to do.
That's a lot to do. And how are you going to light it up there?
You could work up an electronic trigger, but anyways, just the force.
That's so much work.
But just the force of the Roman candle firing would have decimated the drone. So
and I was like, that's so much work for a small town.
Right, exactly.
I'm like, but yeah, it's like when you're looking, what fireworks look like,
right?
Especially this time of year. So to put a sighting out means you have already said this does not in any way, shape, or form
look like fireworks. Yeah. So I think what's interesting, we think back to our sighting several weeks ago with the bright light in the sky, and think about this. I'm wondering if these kind of things, if it's like a what's the word I'm looking for? An illusion type thing where when you think about an illusionist show, you go in and sometimes they'll do like a puff of like a spark of flame, and that distracts you from what's actually happening, right?
Correct.
And so what if this was just really the sparks was a distraction from the craft changing direction? Think of it like in aircraft, in military aircraft, they have what's called chaff, and they launch that chaff to deter heat-seeking rockets. So it's kind of the same thought process.
When I'm chaffed, I just use baby powder.
But it's kind of the same process, right? So it's like let me throw this at you, so you focus on it and not on me.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, even that night that we had with that light, what if it was still there after the fact?
But we were still
focused on the light.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. Very cool. Thanks for sharing that. Is there a name on there?
There is not a name.
Okay, well, thank you, not a name. Very, very cool, man. I'm very intrigued by that, especially for what I'm going to share.
Okay.
In Creepy Catch-Up. So let's go ahead and jump into Creepy Catch-Up.
Creepy Catch-Up. Creepy Catch-Up. Creepy Catch-Up. Creepy Catch-Up. Y'all, it's creepy.
So I have had one heck of a week this week. I've shared some of it online on our Facebook page for those in the know that actually read deep into the post, into the comments. On 4th of July, so right around like 11:50, so it really goes into the 5th of July. I was sitting outside. As you know, there was supposed to be a lunar eclipse, and it was so weak we didn't see anything.
Yeah.
Even some folks that were way out in the country like you didn't see anything, though different parts of the world definitely got a better view. Don't get me wrong, I've seen some shots of the eclipse. Though earlier in the day, the moon was dark and bright when it first came up in the evening there. But anyways, we both have our Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra, not a sponsor, that has the 100 times space zoom, and which we both adore. And so I was trying to take pictures of the moon. I was literally sitting on the sidewalk in front of our house taking pictures of the moon. I loved it. It was absolutely beautiful. Got some really great pictures. And whilst I was taking a picture I noticed something out of the corner of my eye moving erratically, and it was blue. It was a blue light. And so my first thought is, oh, cool, space station or something along that lines. But then I noticed it moving backwards and then up and down and in different directions. And so I quickly, for anyone that has the Ultra, it is not easy to get whatever you're trying to get focused into the middle for the zoom, because it's so close, it moves quick. And so I was able to snap a picture of it. And of course, as soon as I snapped that picture, it was gone.
It disappeared.
And so of course, it's still zoomed up and it just kind of looked like a white light. So I thought, I know this thing was blue. I went into my settings and I lowered the exposure and lowered the brightness because there was a lot of smoke in the air from fireworks. And of course, I'm in the city and I'm actually was shooting past a street light. So I lowered all that stuff, zoomed in on it, and what I saw blew my mind. What I saw was the shape of a classic saucer.
Yep.
Bulbous on the top, bulbous on the bottom, and a ring around it. It was white in the middle with a blue hue halo, essentially, around it. And then behind it was this spiraling blue light. I don't know what it is. And it's just mind-blowing that what I saw looked like a saucer. Mm-hmm. And I posted it on many different UFO sightings. I even reported it to New Fork and MUFON and different things like that. I'm very, very interested in what I saw. And I mean, everybody's like, oh, it's got to be a star. It's got to be a satellite. Well, I've never seen anything that looked like that or moved like that.
I mean, we've taken, with our phone camera, with that space zoom, we've taken pictures of stars before.
Yeah.
And they look completely different.
And a star would not have been able to zoom that close. Even Jupiter, which was out that night, which was bigger than what I saw, I wasn't able to.
Yeah. Well, and whenever I've zoomed in and taken pictures of stars, they generally look round.
Yeah.
Like they don't look oblong, if you will.
Right. And then the thing is what was the light behind it?
Right.
I mean, it almost looked like a Fibonacci sequence, like the way it rounded out and spiraled.
Makes you wonder if it was like some sort of a trail. Like
or exhaust
energy.
or,
Yeah, that's very cool. Anything else happened to you?
Yeah, I did. It has been a week for me. But yeah, that was like the number one thing. And I wanted to also say, I had another person that said in the same area of town that I was in, that they had a friend that reported seeing something that night. That night too, I mean, I saw two other things, but I've justified them as Chinese lanterns. I still don't think they were. But, the skeptics will kill me too much. But I did see two red things moving around and moving in different directions and things like that while watching the fireworks. So I don't know. Like I said, I can justify it as Chinese lanterns, so I'm going to. But I don't know. But the other thing is the other day when I was working, I kept catching something out of the corner of my glasses, reflecting out of the side of the glasses. The second that I would even turn a millimeter, it would disappear off of the mirror image of my glasses. And as soon as I would turn back, it would be there. And this lasted for, probably about an hour before finally there was just nothing there anymore. Like, there was no a cat's not going to stay in the exact same position, and I know where my cats are.
Yeah.
No one was coming into the living room. It doesn't go in, like, my view goes back into essentially what is directly behind me is the piano. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what I saw. I definitely got chills from it. But yeah, there was something there. But as soon as I would turn even slightly, and I even tried to kind of look, try to stay as still as possible and kind of move my eyes to kind of zero in on it, and as soon as I would do that, it would disappear. It was the weirdest. I don't know how to explain it, but I definitely felt spooky.
Well, I've had situations like that recently too. So the night of the lunar eclipse, I was out on the back deck taking pictures and stuff, and I felt like something was like on the crest of my roof, kind of peeking over at me. And I even at one point in time kind of saw it like lift up and peek over at me out of the corner of my eye. But again, when I tried to look at it, there was nothing there.
Yeah.
So makes you wonder if, when you think about your eye and the fact that it's basically a globe with the lens is the half circle, if you will. And you think about how when the moon rises, it looks bigger in the sky than when it's directly overhead.
Right.
So I'm wondering if as things move closer down to the horizon when it comes to the Earth, or to the horizon of your eye, if you think about it that way, if your eye actually magnifies those things closer to the edge, and so that's why you're able to see things out of the corner of your eye that maybe you can't see looking straight at them, because the side of your eye is actually performing some sort of a magnification of what you're seeing.
It's possible. The other thing that I find odd is that I saw this UFO or UAP, and yet all of a sudden we've been talking about possible visitations, right?
Yeah.
And how this idea that ETs or UTs, or I guess in this instance an ET, would be able to have a suit that is cloaked, that we can't see them, and yet my glasses were able to catch a reflection of
somehow pick it up, the refraction or something. Yeah.
Right, which would explain the night hags and stuff again, showing up as maybe I'm being visited again, and they are there in the day, and I happened to catch it, which explains why it was gone in an hour, because it moved on.
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah, it's very interesting, very intriguing. It's made me think that I wish I could set up thermal cameras all around my house and just record 24/7
like Big Brother.
Yeah, to see what I catch.
Yeah. I don't know, but that's my creepy catch-up. You have anything this week?
Other than, like I said, the thing kind of around on the same night peeking over the crest to see, and then one of my daughters told me about a weird footprint when she was taking a shower last week that was out on the floor. And it didn't look like a normal footprint. It had so when you think about a normal footprint, it kind of curves in where your arch is. So it curved in on both sides, and it only had 3 toes.
Oh boy, that's a classic thing there.
So again, kind of thinking about the whole invisible suit walking around type thing. What if they're all the time just kind of in my house and checking me out?
I don't want to talk about old crazy Stan Romanek, but thinking about his videos and stuff, that's what it's starting to feel like.
Well, and it's funny, we were talking about it with our friend Santosh, and he said, you and I are trying to make a connection.
Correct.
And it would make sense if whatever we're trying to make a connection with wants to connect with us, that they kind of scope us out first.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
Yeah, make sure we're not a threat, right? Yep. So, because if they have introduced themselves to our leadership, let's say in the past, and our leadership put them in, freezer packs and dissected them, then they wouldn't want to be weary about who they
or they did reconnaissance on a family in Kelly, Kentucky, and they were shot at.
Right, exactly. So, not everybody in Kentucky is a bumpkin. So, but yeah, it would make sense that they would try to do some recon to understand, is this a safe person to connect with?
Yeah, very, very cool. Yeah, I am definitely more and more believing that. Santosh definitely made super good sense.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much my creepy catch-up. I reckon that's yours.
Yeah, that's pretty much mine.
I do feel like the doors opened and closed behind us for us to find a window. So we'll see what we're going to be seeing. But part of that is getting a chance to meet Alan Greenfield.
Yep.
And so we're going to share with you guys part 1 of our interview with him. It is great. There is a tad bit of language occasionally.
Yeah.
Nothing I would be too worried about. But enjoy, have fun with that. And here we go.
Here we go. Hey everyone, Josh here. Do you feel like mainstream options for things such as yoga, meditation, or documentaries and films meant to expand your mind are lacking? Have you heard of Gaia? Gaia is the largest resource of consciousness expanding videos. Both Stefan and I have watched several of the series, documentaries, and films available on topics such as the secret space program, channeling interdimensional beings, and alien encounters. We're just now exploring the over 8,000 films, shows, and classes available to stream on your favorite devices. To get your 10-day free trial of Gaia, go to fearscapepodcast.com/Gaia offer. Again, that's fearscapepodcast.com/GAIA offer.
We're just super excited. And I'm definitely all about synchronicities. Don't get me wrong, especially because I had just finished Secret Cipher of the UFOnauts the day before you emailed us. So it was really, really exciting. And I was like, holy shit. I was just blown away just at the timing of that, as well as everything else that I've been reading. Your name keeps popping up in other things, and I'm very excited about all of that, right?
The good things or the bad things?
Good. They're good things, though I did see somebody say that more than likely you were Demo Hassan, so...
well, that was probably my internet troll, Victor Seipert, C-Y-P-E-R-T.
I thought that was very interesting.
Years, which is, that's something of a record. I mean, every book I come out with, he pans. And so I've decided to mention his name in every program that
But no, awesome. I love that. And then, I'll be reading something else and I'll find you have done the introduction or was really interesting. I was in Ann Arbor 2-3 weeks ago, Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I went into my favorite bookstore. It's this used bookstore called the Dawn Treader, and in there was in the paranormal section and New Age section, and my book caught my eye, which was the Serious Mystery, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm gonna grab this, and then I had just gotten the Complete Cipher, and so I'm reading through, and there all of a sudden you're talking about the Serious Mystery. I'm like, well, shit, I guess this is all on purpose. So very, very, very excited.
Works that way when you're on the right track. That is current theory, and it kind of guides you back if you're on the wrong track. Sometimes somewhat harshly, like the balloon thing, which my publisher is now having the balloon things.
I just saw somebody posted on that Hellier group, that Facebook group, where he was like, star balloon equals in the Secret Cipher Hellier hoax. So can we all be done with the stupid balloon?
Got thrown off of Facebook for reasons unknown. And since I was thrown off by, I see somebody writing in the background. Do you have a...
We're next to each other.
Okay, you're in the same...
Yeah, we're in the same room.
That it's so weather is so inclement. Are you in New Jersey or because there's a typhoon or something?
No, we're in Louisville, Kentucky.
Yeah.
Oh, you're in Louisville. That's good.
Yep.
Louisville, Louisville, whatever you want to say.
Louisville.
Leave Itville.
Well, in Georgia we call it Louisville.
Yeah. We love it here. But yeah, we're just right next to each other. It's just easier than trying to share a camera because my head's big. So.
Yeah. And he moves around a lot.
It's mine. Mine is.
Well, if I get close to, I can.
Well, so Alan, I couldn't help but notice, but you just said that your head is as big as a balloon. Does that count as a balloon sighting?
Well, if you want to count it, just take my name, run it through the cipher, word after Greenfield, balloon.
Yep, and I'll go ahead and tweet Tyler about that. Make sure he gets that.
Yeah, I don't think Tyler knows what happened to me because I disappeared. I had 5,000 subscribers and almost 1,000 followers, whatever that mean in that context. And I don't think anybody is working at Facebook. I think it's all machines. And I used the wrong sign-in That's only happened once before, curiously, when I was up to 5,000 people. And they will not let me back in. I've sort of given up on it, and I have an account on MeWe, or as I call it, WeWe.
Yeah, I saw that.
Well, it's funny. I've got some long gone relatives that we can't get rid of their Facebook accounts.
Right, they've been dead.
But
Well, actually, you mentioned my son Alex. I've been on Facebook since John Crow twisted my arm many years ago. So I've been on practically from the beginning. And I had designated my son Alex as, what do they call it when the person dies and somebody else, picks up the site or whatever. So he's
The proxy or
inheritor of the.
yeah.
He's capable. He's a Lovecraftian, very weird person. But then he grew up in a house, he literally was on a UFO watch with me on my shoulder when he was less than a year old, which he keeps in his IMDb bio.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw that. I would though. That's what I would do if my dad was cool like that. Instead, I was looking at billiards games with my dad. But he's a big pool player.
Well, we watched wrestling together too. So
there you go. There you go. Well, I guess to jump into quickly get through Hellier a little bit. One thing that we can definitely say is that it was when we started looking into your writings and Keel's writings
John Keel,
and things like that, and Gray Barker and all of those wonderful folks, is when our ideas went somewhere else than Greg and Dana and those guys did.
I'm not sure that, well, first of all, one thing I like about them as a group is they're new.
Yes.
They're new as in new to everything. They're old ghost hunters, but they're younger people than most of the people in ufology or paranormal research or cryptid, all of which I think is the same thing under different guises. That's like my rant since the 1960s. They also they're following the synchronicities, but they're following it from the beginning. And the thing that I like about it is I've done a lot of field investigations, and I've also been on a lot of those History Channel type TV shows.
Yeah.
And their shows. In fact, Alex and Penny, my daughter-in-law, were living in New York for a while, and I had a program called Decoded, which wasn't well named, and I did it on Liberty Island. I came back and I had lunch with my son and daughter-in-law, and I said, I think I may have to join SAG-AFTRA because clearly this was an acting job. The thing about Hellier is you may not like it, you may like it, you may, but it's real. It's the field research is, including you don't have some object and then you reach that object and you go, well, there's the ghost in the attic.
Yeah.
It's not a rat. It's not a rat. It's a ghost.
I absolutely love the show, and I do love those guys. I definitely feel like Connor is a little more on the path with numbers and things like that. Even me not being a numbers guy, for sure, I'm definitely more the occult, artistic, and things like that. But I think that's the path to follow, is where Connor is headed, and I'm very excited to see where they go. So
yeah, I think that they will find their own way if they follow synchronicities, but it's going to be a process, and they could edit all that out, but they don't. Very dramatic, go straight for the mouth, the mind, maybe have a few rocks fall down, and they're doing trial and error and following the synchronicities. So people who are looking for it to be, I'm not saying you, I'm saying the average audience that watches the History Channel wants there to be a big bazunga.
Correct.
Bazunga in there. It's ongoing research with.
It's ongoing.
Yeah, exactly. And
the one thing you said that I really liked more than anything was that maybe this path was set to get it more out in the open, which it has done. I mean, we spend a lot talking about the things that the threads we've followed on our own that have led to completely different things that don't have anything to do with Hellier, but kind of had its root from watching that show.
Got it started.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and I'm just my own personal history and past. I was at one point Gardnerian for a long time, and other forms of Wicca, and just all these different other things that, you know, I'm reading, and all are kind of, I'm finding synchronicities in my own life based off of the stuff that I've been into, and finding the things that I'm looking at now and how they tie into that whole idea, like that Keel talks about and you guys talk about, is that, you know, there's this connection between all of those things. Somehow it's all related.
Let me contrast Keel and Barker, both of whom I knew. I knew Barker much better, but I knew quite well. Keel approached the original Mothman cases. I have to say original now because there's a whole flock of them, maybe literally, in the Midwest now. So, you know, they're coming to Kentucky at any given moment.
Any minute, if they can
get in a town near you.
If they can get through the border, they're on their way.
Illinois and Indiana. So, you know, it may flap on down, but and you're above the cave system, I believe. So you probably are since that seems to have some real correlation with all this. It might be.
Oh yeah.
Along with missing persons, which there's a correlation there that is scary, frankly. But I mean, it's thousands of people over a period of time, and that's real. I'm only talking about those that don't get found.
Yeah, right.
Start to think Richard Shaver's stuff, and maybe they were eaten, you know.
Yeah, right.
I don't want to say that to their relatives because they may just have absconded to the Barbados, which is not a bad idea these days. But be that as it may, actually, I've been in a cave on Barbados as well, and the Chase Vault, the place where the moving coffins are located. Anyway, Keel, Barker. Okay, Keel approached the whole West Virginia thing as a kind of reporter, but a particular kind. His previous experience was mostly with what were then the men's magazines in the 1960s, and you would have to be my age or above to remember Saga and Argosy and True, which was no more true than Argus. And so you sort of had to do your story in between the ones about the guy who gets on an island and finds that it's the island of lost women who are starved for male attention, and the centerfold is just a girl in a bikini. You know, I mean, this was the relatively tame stuff, but was considered men's magazines for ordinary folks, not like Esquire or
GQ.
Well, GQ hadn't even come out at that point. Anyway, so that's Keel's approach to just about everything. Barker is practically a native of West Virginia. He's a native of Western Virginia, and just over the border when the two divided. And he lived most of his life in the last train to Clarksville, whatever, in West Virginia. And he was a degreed folklorist, and he approached the whole issue with the eye of a folklorist. And I think the Silver Bridge, if you read it properly, and I tried to do.
That's what I'm reading right now.
It's the old edition with my introduction that I wrote in 1970.
Yeah, it has both intros in it, and
this is the newer one. Yeah, good. That's
it's fascinating to read his accounting of everything after I've read Keel's, so it's really cool.
Yeah, and I think that's it's closer to the truth, as Jim Moseley would have said. It's dangerously close to the truth. And Barker, he didn't spell it out, but he basically told me, because I had to talk him into publishing the book, because he showed it to Moseley, his best bud, first. And Moseley is a fact freak, and he said, I don't like this. This is too much like fiction. Yeah. Like the whole thing isn't a lot. Live in Philip K. Dick's universe. That's the reality. You know, you want That's where I get my synchronicities. Anything I read by or about Philip K. Dick, I get a ton of synchronicities immediately following. And that.
Yep. Based off of your recommendation in your books, I'm reading Valis right now as well. So,
have you read any of his other earlier stuff?
Oh yeah, I was already a Philip K. Dick fan, huge fan. But I had not read Valis or come across it, so I was and it's really good.
Yes, the trilogy was published posthumously, but
yeah,
basically, Valis is the first, and then it depends on who you talk to. If you talk to his last wife, she thinks that it was a different order altogether, but I'm not so sure. She's not clueless about this. I once had an argument with Ursula Le Guin about Philip K. Dick being a male chauvinist pig, and I said, no, he's just talking. His books are semi-autobiographical, and he's had a very bad time with women, which I can sort of relate to through 4 marriages. He was one up on me there, but and she was snippy about that, but I understand they made up before either one of them passed from this realm. In any case, I think Barker was right on the money, and Keel, if you want just a factual account of this was a case and that was a case, the thing is the phone calls, I'm pretty well convinced, were part of Gray's bad reputation. Jim Moseley and Gray Barker would get together and get uproariously drunk and stoned, and they would make phony phone calls. And one of their regular victims, apparently, during that period was John A. Keel. I'm out here.
That's fantastic. So it sounds like me and Josh.
Keel writes down, and I was contacted repeatedly by Indrid, who had a voice somewhat like Gray Barker. If he were a drinking man, he was a drinking man, and they did a little film at one of our conventions where they were. This was back in the day where they were looking at the camera as deadpan as they could, and they said, and just as these sightings have a spiritual dimension, we have found this herb. A really great spiritual experience. And I thought, this is getting to the core of it right there. DMT was way in the future, so I don't know, but. Am I delusioning or am I enlightening here? I don't know.
Yeah.
Both.
Whatever Moseley and Barker did in the way of hoaxes, they were deadly serious about the phenomena. They were just, they had a sense of humor, and most people in nuts and bolts ufology have zero sense of humor.
Yes.
And, they can I say screw? They can.
Yeah, you can say whatever the hell you want.
Yeah. Well, they can fuck themselves then. But anything. And I tend to be somewhat profane, despite.
Same.
That's all right.
Yeah, I'm a comedian too. That's what I do outside of here, and it's something I'm always worried will get in the way of the things that we're looking into. That because I'm a comedian, I get taken less seriously a lot. So, but. Sorry, I also like making people laugh, and I also like the occult.
Are you being serious now? I can't tell.
I don't even know. I haven't taken my Adderall today.
Seriously, is that something about the star Sirius C, which lands in the heart of Africa, and Lenny Bruce of the spacecraft, and says, "Funny happened to me on the way to Earth," and people went, "That's funny!" Right?
And then the leaders of those people locked him up for being obscene. So,
and he developed an awful heroin habit, and it's a tragedy even here on Earth. But we memorialize by being similar.
Yes.
So before we move on from Hellier, because we do want to get into a lot more other stuff, but I think we have some other, I guess, corollary to Hellier, and that is Stefan and I both have some questions as it relates to Mr. Wrist.
Okay, so I have just one other thing to say about Hellier.
Okay.
Because we really covered the first one, which is whatever you think of it, it is an honest look at what field investigations in any of these areas are really like, as opposed to the plumbers in New Jersey that go in a house and they hear a rat and go, oh, it's the spirits or whatever. I mean, you know, that is, and it's the first I have seen that is professionally done and real. And I could relate to everything that they were doing because I've done all those same things in other locations. So the other thing is that it's, I told them, I think it may have been on the program, I said, you know, you're really doing a ritual. And they took it literally and had an episode that was a ritual. The whole thing is a ritual. And if you participate in the ritual, by watching it, synchronicities will start to happen to you. I heard
100% agree.
Gazillions of people, well, not gazillions, but, you know, bunches, said, yeah, I watched it and I liked it or didn't like it, you know, A, B, C, or D. But I'm now having synchronicities that are very similar, like balloons.
Just like us.
Yeah, exactly. That's way out there. And of course, there's the kindness that when I wrote the first draft of Secret Cipher, the UFOnauts, I thought that it would get picked up and people would start working with the cipher. This was way, way back, and it just didn't happen. I gave a couple of speeches and mentioned it, but I was expecting people to pick up the ball and run with it. They did not. Now they do. It doesn't hurt. Actually, the sales have gone through the roof of the Complete Secret Cipher, the combined edition of Secret Cipher and Secret Rituals. But it's a whole different outlook that people that are reading it now and using the cipher, and the feedback I'm getting goes beyond me. And when you get to be a certain age, you want to see, some of this stuff go on beyond your time. And if that's what I'm remembered for is starting people in that direction, that's great.
Well, it definitely has for us. I mean, we use the hell out of the cipher on everything. And it has enhanced our own research and the things that we're into in a weird way. As a pagan, it's enhanced my spirituality as well. And to talk back about about the ritual, as someone who was raised, so to speak, in the Gardnerian and Wicca and things like that, and the occult and all the things that I've been into, I thought that the actual ritual that they did was very vanilla ice cream compared to the ritual they were unintentionally doing throughout the entire show. And that was my big thought on that, was there was more intent and more potential in the ritual that they were taking part of than the actual pan ritual that they did, which as a person who practices magic and things like that, I thought was very vanilla.
They've never, I don't think as a group, they've never done magic before or since in the ritual circle sense. I mean, they didn't physically, I wouldn't do something in a cave or a mine without physically drawing.
Oh yeah, that was my first.
Dealing with something like pan, I can tell you my pan story, but you need a triangle to hold whatever it is you're dealing with.
Yep.
You're likely to get panic, and it's not a word noted.
Yeah, that was my thought too. I would have thrown so much more protection down for someone they were nervous about dealing with anyways. And so it lost me a little bit on that. But I really held on to your words about what they had already been through being the ritual.
Yeah.
And I look back at that, and you can write things down and see things. And that's why I wish I had access to their brains to know everything that's not in the show, right? To really take a look at the ritual that has been and is being created.
If the Great Plague ever ends, I'm sure there will be a season 3. So
yes,
Yeah.
yes. I love the theorists, the conspiracy theorists that are like the ritual they did in the cave is what caused COVID-19.
it isn't.
I saw a balloon on the side of the road. It has to be true.
The hook. I spoiled the presidential campaign of the current behemoth, Godzilla, whatever. Daryl Gardner once saved me from getting beaten up by the Chicago police, but that's...
Oh, that's cool. He's a crazy looking dude, man.
There's a photo of me standing in front of the witch's mill, and there's Gardner in the background. And the truth is, I was in Chicago running from the cops, and because the Chicago cops are the pits for big city cops. And I saw the Ripley's Museum there. Well, I was already, I had gone to the original Ripley's, and I knew there would be some Gardnerian exhibit there if they hadn't taken it down because it wasn't good for the kiddies. Never mind the Tibetan skull and other.
Right.
It's a strange thing. But actually, I almost bought the collection, but all of Gardner's stuff that Monique Wilson basically sold off, which I think was morally wrong. But
agreed.
But I did ebook of Ye Art Magical. They brought it to me from the vault in Toronto, brought it all the way down to St. Petersburg, Florida, where I read through it with my then wife, and I said, "Hey, this is all Crowley and Golden Dawn, and I mean it's and it's in 3 different handwritings." And I wrote to Doreen Valente, who would be familiar to you, I suppose, if you were into real Gardnerian Wicca.
Yep.
The only real Wicca, I think. Oops, I'm in.
What about the Alexanders?
Whatever you steal has its own validity. That's
Yep.
Saint Decimus looks after you, the good thief. No, I mean the 3 different handwritings didn't disguise the fact that Doreen said those are all Gerald's handwritings. He had 3 different scripts that he used for different things, and I learned a lot from it, and I offered them $6,000 for the ebook of Ye Art Magical, the only copy. And they turned it down. They said, "We figure that it's something that if we sell the whole collection," and they were real anxious to do that because this was during the Satanic Panic thing.
Panic of the 80s, yeah.
So they were, and the guy who had bought this collection was the head of the museum in St. Petersburg, and he had been originally the head of their Blackpool, England, and thought he was doing a coup by buying, all of the stuff that Monique was selling, and apparently had run sort of afoul of his employers because they decided belatedly after having stuff on display that Gardner was too X-rated for their public, which I think was preposterous. But I'm not a Ripley person. I like their museum. But anyway, so I ran to the museum and stood and took a photo in front of the looming presence of the late Gerald Gardner, and thus escaped from the billy clubs and 100 and some odd people that I was with wound up in jail. So, I mean, we were doing bad things, like demonstrating or something.
or something. Wow. Yeah. I definitely know Gardner definitely was very cool with Crowley and the Golden Dawn folks, and a lot of even the stuff that we dig into in my coven and things like that, we find a lot of Golden Dawn influence and stuff like that. It's very, very interesting. That's why I loved reading your books and kind of fleshing out some more history for me on some things. It was really cool, and the ties to the Masonic stuff and all that.
There's a pirate book out there that's been out there for years. It first showed up in Canada, and it's my version of what the history of Wicca is, but I didn't write a book about it. I don't know whose book that is.
Oh, I've seen that. Yeah. The history of witchcraft or something like that. Yeah.
And some of the material in it is ripped from my website, but I didn't write the book, and I don't know that I get royalties on it of any.
I did, because I was trying to find any other books you had and things like that, and I came across that, and I felt the same way. I felt it was a little odd.
It wasn't a book. It never has been identified. First, it showed up on Scribd as a downloadable thing, and showed up in several different editions because somebody figured out that it wasn't under copyright. How could it be? I mean, it is.
Yeah, I've seen it on like archive book sites and stuff like that where they.
These are different editions. It's apparently a popular book.
Yeah.
Hey, congratulations, Alan.
Yeah. I think Barker wrote the foreword. So.
Yeah.
Was the foreword.
He was forward is what he was.
Problem, and may he rest in peace.
His picture on the back of Silver Bridge is the best. It's the best picture ever.
Well, there are some great pictures of Gray around, and there's actually a room at the local Clarksburg museum that's devoted to Gray Barker memorabilia. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, it is. He never got the recognition that he deserved, because our whole branch of ufology was not nuts and bolts oriented. So the contactees didn't like us because we weren't contactees and we're not going into trance every other afternoon, and or ever, except when Moseley and Barker were using the herb dangerous.
The herb, yeah.
And that was, whether that's trans channeled or not, I don't know. But and on the other hand, the nuts and bolts people didn't like us because we were open to other ideas from way back, and so we called ourselves Middle Ufology back in the day, and had a really long run with our convention. Those who have survived are still around. Dave Halpern has a wonderful book out. He has a kind of Jungian perspective on this, but then back in the day, he was the head of the New Jersey Association of Aerial Phenomena.
Yeah.
He lived in Philadelphia. So think about that for a while. It's the essence of the mystery. So.
Yeah, I love that. I love, I also, we come across that picture you took as well. That's famous, of course, that was possible MIB.
There's a rumor that Gray hired that guy to be at the convention, but I understand how he could have gone around the corner when
right.
Being theatrical. In fact, if I had been alone eating lunch across the street from the convention, I would have never told the story. I didn't for a lot of years. I just kept the picture, under wraps. But I was sitting with like a dozen well-known figures in ufology, and I just decided, well, enough of this, men in black around the corner. I'm gonna, if the guy gets physical, I'll punch him out. I don't. And if it goes through him, I'll duly record it and get. But instead, he froze outside when I got ahead of him, and I took that picture with my Yashica J7 camera, millimeter camera, and he went around the corner, and I had this moment of making sure that my camera was wound, because it didn't. flip wine type thing. But it couldn't have been more than 5 seconds. And in West Virginia on a Sunday afternoon downtown, you could have shot a cannonball and not hit anybody. So there was nobody in the streets, not even cars, nothing. And he was gone. And on both sides of the street, even any doorways he could have stepped into. So who knows? If Gray hired a friend, Randy, I can tell you that.
That gets into, so one of the theories that I have from all the stuff that I've been reading and accounts and things like that, and then also some kind of personal thoughts that I've had, is that they have like cloaking suits, if you will, so they can appear invisible and come and go as they please. That a lot of ghost encounters are actually where you're seeing echoes of their cloaking suits that they're wearing, or if you've got poltergeist activity, it's actually because they're opening and closing your drawers and your doors and your cabinets and things like that. It's not actually a ghost that's doing it. So
that's entirely possible. That implies that they are what you think you're seeing. And my thought is that, and it's kind of based on the current thinking in quantum theory, which is that we are one of a multiplicity of universes, and sometimes there is, for lack of a better term, a glitch in the matrix, and they are glitches, and that's why they're able to appear and disappear, not because I'm not even sure that they look the way we see them, because
that's the same thing that I've had that thought as well, is that they actually look something completely different, but they somehow either broadcast or in our psyche make us see them as they want to be seen. And I've actually used Indrid Cold, the different Indrid Cold interactions, as kind of a basis for that, to say that one of the first interactions happened in New Jersey, and Indrid Cold is the bald-headed guy, and he looks really scary, and he scared those 2 kids away. And then later you see him with like slick back hair. And I looked at a popular movie of the time, which was the Day the Earth Stood Still, and thought, what if they were pulling from pop culture to appear or project their appearance to be what we would be willing to accept?
Or we're pulling it from pop culture and shaping something that's a stimulus. It's like we can't really see stars. We get enough energy to have those points of light, but they are so far away, even the nearest stars. We only register it as a twinkling object. I think we do actually see the planets, but stars, it's just registering on our psyches. And when you think about it, in terms of biological history, we just got here, 10 years ago. And in terms of geological history, we really just got here. And in terms of the history of the universe, I don't even know if we're here yet.
Oh, I know. That Carl Sagan timetable just blew my mind when I first saw that when I was a kid.
So we have these 5 senses that are made, as far as we can tell, to hunt and to kill and to eat and to mate and reproduce, and pretty much nothing else, because most of our history, such as it is, going back to the earliest hominids, is just a drop in the ocean. So are those senses prepared to see tulpas and beings that come from complex dimensional structures that we have no direct contact with, or do we something, and like the stars, we have to register it on our retinas, so to speak, but what we are seeing is nothing like what they are, which accounts for why little hairy men in South America and big, tall, blonde, blue-eyed Aryans in George Adamski's because according to Jim Moseley, he was notoriously anti-Semitic, which, considering his circle of friends, I believe that.
Yeah.
Well, it's something that, like Stefan, we've talked about before. There's I don't remember where you said you read it from, but the thought that when the ships from Europe landed on
it was on What the Bleep Do We Know? Is a fun little documentary. Yeah.
But it's, when the European ships first landed, because Native Americans had never seen ships like that, they likely didn't even see them. They were just blind to them being there.
Their brains could not comprehend what they were seeing. And that goes into how often has that happened to us? How often has something large, maybe a mothership or something along those lines, and those of us that are, I guess, in the normality, could not see it, yet some people can, and some people can register it, right? That's
yeah. And some people have a finer attunement. I mean, I don't want to get into too deep a metaphysical.
Right.
You're just using words that don't have any objective meaning, at least at this point. But look, we're looking at screens right now as if we were actually looking at other people.
Right.
And that's
right.
It's purely the electrons hitting a screen or whatever. I'm not a technical person. Electrons hitting a screen. It sounds good anyway. So.
Yeah.
Right.
That was beautiful.
Oh, God, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr.
And so astute.
So if I could wrap back around real quick, because we do have just sorry for the sexual image. And we do have a couple of questions about Mr. Wrist. In really just more or less some theories that we have, and really just wanted to ask, maybe because you've interviewed him at least twice, as per the book, and probably known him other times, that maybe
not for very long. That's something I've tried to get through to the Newkirks and others. I say I knew him for about a year in a political group, a political radical group, and I'm not going to describe it further, that I was also a part of, ergo the aforementioned hiding from the Chicago cops.
I figured.
And he joined in the group, but he had nobody else in the group was interested in metaphysical stuff, let alone Shaver or any of the things that he wanted, Sirius, anything that he wanted to talk about. So we were friendly, but I wouldn't say that we were friends. However, that was a period where I was doing interviews of people that were interested in this stuff. So I got him to sit down on a couple of occasions in my house, and did those interviews. But including them in that particular book was an afterthought in both cases. I didn't know him that long. I went down to my hometown to write, ironically, Secret Cipher and Secret Rituals at the same time. There's a long story about why they were 10 years apart that has to do with the supreme leader of the OTO and how he didn't want me writing books.
That's one of my little hidden questions, was wondering why the OTO disconnect. But anyways,
I always will talk about my 20-year experience with the cult of the OT. Oh God. I mean, it was just.
And it's funny because you answered my question about why you even interviewed Terry. So I don't even have to ask that one. So that works out good.
He never asked me. At the same time, during that same period, I interviewed Carrie Thornley, who was kind of a street person in Atlanta. And I interviewed Carrie, not Terry. I interviewed Carrie at the OTO Lodge house. And he was scared to death because he had probably heard it was the Illuminati, or look, the OTO couldn't lead a Boy Scout march on a burlesque house. I mean, the gripplers of the world is you just have to know the people in it. It's not that swift. I did donate Gerald Gardner's OTO charter to the OTO as in lieu of giving them property to become a sovereign grand inspector general.
Right.
As far as I got. And then I told them what I thought of them, and
Bye, Felicia.
More like Felicia, but that's
Yep.
yeah, you get ahead there by getting ahead there.
Yep. I'll tell you what, though, just hearing you talk, like the things you just said about Terry and stuff like that really kind of explains his demeanor. Just that idea of pushing that idea of that radical and things like that, and that he's a radical in both worlds, right? This radical on this political side of things as well as this ufology side of things. And I like that because there's not a lot of folks like that.
No, he was very impressive in the story he was telling. I think that's what most people, and he had not told me that story in advance. So I really, I knew that he was interested in Shaver because he borrowed, I had all these amazing stories from the 40s and the hidden world from the early 1960s.
Yeah.
And I loaned them to him, and then I went down to my hometown 200 miles away for about 6 months to write those books, came back to Atlanta, and he was gone. I mean, and with my stuff, including some rocks that Shaver had sent me with those, what he says are picture rocks, and I've never seen them since. I've never seen him since.
That's what you should have been on Hellier. You'd been like, Terry, I need my shit.
Well, he was older than me, so, and more of an adventurer than me, so he may or may not still be around. I don't know. I mean,
he just the way that, like, reading, especially the second interview, the way reading him and hearing you talk about it, he sounds like a combination of Indiana Jones and Rambo. Like, that's what he sounds like.
The thing that doesn't jive for me is the group that we were in was, how shall I put it, far, far left wing. And the guy who met him not very long after that, like 2 years later in what would be a likely place, which is, the border between North Carolina and Georgia, said that he was in a right-wing militia group. And I don't know which Terry is real, I mean,
yeah, right.
The sense that, was he faking us out because he just stepped in and stepped out, whereas most of those people, I'm up until I got thrown off of Facebook by whatever machine, I was still in touch with, other people that were in that group. So, we've remained friends, although we're all old now and can't run away as fast.
Hold on, let me get on my hover round.
Well, and a guy like him, I mean, it could be both, or it could be all just, a hoax, or whatever.
A ruse.
But I think he wants that mystery. He's that type of person. It's like, I want you to find me mysterious, and within the lies that I give you are truth, and within the truth I give you are lies. Right. And
just like Gray Barker, real. Yep. As people where Gray is concerned, because he's better known, people throw out the baby with the bathwater. And I don't think they should do that with Terry. I wouldn't have published the stuff if I hadn't thought it had it resonated with other things that I've heard from other people, Shaver included, and the thousands of people that, validated what Shaver had to say, as loony as that is. Maybe there are thousands of loonies having the same paranoid experience, but
yeah, they all listen to our shows. But yeah, I mean, that's all stuff we're getting into. I mean, especially him.
Planet between Earth and Mars.
Yes.
We'll send your contributions. I'll send you a prayer cloth. My sisters are waiting for your call right now.
And a sweaty napkin that was pressed against your face.
Call 666-6666.
Oh wait, what's the area code? I don't know.
Run it through the cipher. I don't know.
So what really strikes me as interesting is I can't remember which interview it is in the Complete, but it has two interviews in there.
Yeah.
But one of them says that you ask him if he's a secret chief, and he says that would be telling. I mean, I mean, do you feel like he's the secret chief, or do you feel like he was blowing smoke, or?
I don't think he's a secret chief, because I think secret chiefs, their energy is almost unbearable for mortals like me. But I do think that he considered himself to be in communion with the secret chiefs. And if he's still around, he could indeed be doing what the Hellier folks say, which is pulling the strings. I don't know, maybe strings right now, it's hard to say. If he is, then he's better Magus than I thought he was. I always am fond of saying that the most significant Magus that I've ever met, bar none, that living Magus, is Michael Bertio. And that's for various reasons. But I guess someone who was sufficiently advanced, I wouldn't notice it, because I'm just a schlep trying to figure these things out.
Yeah. I mean, do you, something else that Stefan and I were talking about a few days ago or a week ago is the possibility that some of Indrid's cohorts, so Demo or Carl, that Terry is them, or they are Terry, or whatever.
Well, he claims to have met Indrid Cole. That was his least credible claim, I thought, but I printed it as it was, because he used the cipher to figure it out. All these years, I had thought it was some town in West Virginia, downstate from Clarksburg and Parkersville town, whatever. But apparently they provided good evidence that his clues lead to this town in Kentucky, right?
Ashland.
Ashland, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't associate Ashland with Kentucky. I associate it with Ashland. It's a smaller gasoline company that has...
they're based in Kentucky.
Okay, well, there you go.
I didn't know that.
Ashland Oil is based in Kentucky.
Yeah, I've sort of figured that was the case. But whatever is true of that town, whatever led them there, spooky place, very spooky place. So, and their identifications fit. And I don't know enough about West Virginia geography, and I don't have grade to ask anymore, that I would be able to, pick a town that fit it anywhere nearly that well.
Yeah.
So far as it being a parking lot now, my paternal grandparents were from Baltimore, and my grandfather owned a famous saloon in a disreputable neighborhood. And I went to Baltimore several years ago to look up stuff. It's kind of easy to look up Jewish stuff because it's kept. And I found the place. In fact, U.B. Blake wrote a song about my grandfather's saloon called Corner of Chester and Low, which are two streets in Baltimore in a very bad neighborhood that a taxi won't stop in. And it's a parking lot. The only point of that story is a lot of things have changed over the years, and parking lots are one of the major urban sprawl things. I mean, here in Atlanta, I used to have a beautiful view of the woods out here, and here now I look out the window, I see a construction site. So
it's weird. Some of these really, I'm a big history buff too, and so some of these really historical buildings that have been torn down just to make a parking lot. H.H. Holmes' murder castle, that's just a parking lot now. Like, it's hard to even find because it's literally just a parking lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of that, and so that's not incredible at all. Then the other clues are all really in place, assuming that Terry wasn't just making it up.
Yeah.
And I should say about the group, we all had silly names, so nobody asked. If you didn't know, it was impolite to ask. I was Spider Rainbow.
I love it.
I was married to Lacey Rainbow.
Ooh, now that I think I've seen some of her videos.
Well, I wouldn't reveal it if she was still doing that, but she's doing witchy pagan things in somewhere near Syrian Arid, if you know where that is. That's kind of a mountain retreat for neo-pagans. And so we all had names like that. And whenever I refer to these people, even the ones whose names I know, I refer to them by their noms de guerre.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, even as Gardnerian, we do so in our circles, in our chats and things like that. We still refer to each other as our Gardnerian circle names, so I get that.
Let me tell you a Breeze story and why I could say I was Spider Rainbow. Okay, it was kind of, when I got out of that scene, it was kind of something that I didn't mean more, especially after I joined the OTO. But Bill Breeze, that's Billbreeze, the Supreme Commander of the OTO, aka Hymenaeus Beta, which is a kind of funny name when you think about it. But he, in his before days, he lived in Atlanta and was a musician. And he was visiting me, and he brought over one of the people that had been in a band that he was in at one time. I'm fracturing the story slightly. And he introduced me as Spider Rainbow. And I looked at him and I thought, here's the guy that I've pledged my allegiance to. And he's, putting out there something that I'm not so sure is a good idea, because we took those names. Not Terry. Terry came in with that name, and I don't know him by any other name. But most of us adopted names when some of our Canadian counterparts, dare I say comrades, were arrested and sent to prison because they were found with bomb-making materials, i.e. they had fertilizer and ammonia in their house, which most people do. But we decided it was prudent from there on out to go by noms de guerre. So that was just the ethos of that group.
Yeah. Something else we've been coming across, and this came across in Terry's interview too, that we've been researching a lot, is that idea of the cave systems, of course, and UTs. And that story of Terry fighting Greys underground fits that story from, I don't remember what his name is, that went underground and found the Greys down there.
Isn't that Shaver?
No. This is the guy that worked for the government and then mysteriously died recently.
Oh, yeah.
Human alien
right.
base. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not just
Dulce. That story.
Yeah, there are several different people who confirm different aspects of that story. And I don't know. I don't have any opinion.
Yeah, I don't either.
But when Shaver wrote his stuff in the 40s, they got tons of mail from other people that had similar experiences. So either, my theory was, well, maybe Terry and his group of ex-GIs or whatever they were went into a cave or cavern near Tallulah Gorge, because he hinted at that, and I was, that's a big gorge in North Georgia, very pretty place, but it's where the movie Deliverance was filmed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not on the wild Catoosa, but on the rather gentle Tallulah Gorge, which used to be a raging river, but they dammed it up. And in any case,
damn it.
Yeah. Well, it makes it a lot easier to explore if you can get.
Yeah.
I once tried to carry my youngest son down there, and it's such a deep incline. I got about halfway down, and I thought, I can't carry a kid and get all the way down. And so my friends went down and looked around and looked for a cave, and I sat on a ledge with my son Randall, and waited for them to come back and pretended that I went down there because I was ashamed of myself. But I was carrying like a 3-year-old child who today has no memory of that at all, as far as I know. I asked him about it. But anyway, where was I going with that? Don't have a moment.
Cave base.
A moment. You're talking to yourself. Stop talking to yourself. Talk to these guys.
But yeah, we were just talking about the UTs and the caves and possible Terry fighting them.
Yeah, the alternate explanation is that there's gas in a lot of mines. That's why the canary in the mine thing was.
Yeah.
And that would account for hallucinations, like the Purgatory of St. Patrick in Ireland. It would account for the purported deaths that took place. And the people that survived probably would have, they would have gelled their memories because they were, oh, did you see that? And they were all prepped to find Diro and Tyros, and maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But that is an alternate explanation if you want something that's more mundane.
Well, what we had found is we found some other correlations through, and this is where Hellier really helped us with that, is that cave UT, underground theory is some of the cryptid sightings that we looked into, the clawed beast of the Ohio, the Loveland frogs, and then as well as the Kentucky goblins. The interesting thing is that the Kentucky goblins and the clawed beast of the Ohio happened, was it the same day?
Yeah.
The exact same day. And people have not made a correlation to this, and they are directly, Evansville is directly due north of Kelly, Kentucky, where it happened, right across the river. And we started looking into cave systems and things like that, which indeed meet up with the Ohio, and a lot of these underground aquifers and things like that have these underground river systems that connect to the Ohio. Loveland frogs happened right there in Cincinnati on the Ohio not long after, and some things like that. And some of the things that they found, like the girl was swimming in the Ohio, and that's where the clawed beast came from, was described very similar to what the Kentucky goblins looked like in a lot of ways. And the pieces that they found on her, they found this mud and this clay that is normally found in a cave system.
Only found in the cave system. And there is an underwater river that runs through the cave system that dumps out or goes through the Ohio River. So yeah, I mean, and this is all back in the 50s, right? So at the time, this is before they had built multiple dams across the Ohio. So there were points of the Ohio River that were rather shallow for swimming. So for that kind of stuff to take place.
But yeah, I mean, just within the Ohio Valley, we have found so much correlation. And that's why we loved Hellier so much, because we're in Kentucky. And so that's what I was drawn to the series first and foremost, because I've been to Hellier. I have friends that live out in that county, and I'd been to that gas station a million times and things like that. So I was fascinated by oh, what are they talking about Hellier for?
That on another program, did you not, about having visited in Hellier? Or
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was very interesting, because it seemed like a really obscure place that I heard of.
It is, yeah.
And the only reason I went to it's because there was a gas station there. It was on the way to Hueysville, Kentucky. So that's the only reason.
Not
Hueyville.
Yeah, Hueysville and Paintsville and
yes,
Black Mountain.
Oh, the other strange person there. The house burned down, and I found a really weird thing on YouTube while looking for reviews of Hellier. But there was a thing about a fire in Hellier, Kentucky. It was that house burning up. It had made the whatever passes for a local TV station had filmed the house burning up. So when they said, oh, in real time when I was watching the program, they said, oh, we can't find the house. I thought, look for charred ruins, because I think probably the same house. And I think that the guy is a real person. I think he discovered his name, and maybe the doctorate that he put on the front was from the Universal Life Church or something. I don't know, but
and it's very possible that he was renting, and so he wouldn't be on property rolls as owning a house.
And like I said, I have a lot of friends that live out there. in Eastern Kentucky, and there's a lot of folks they don't know. So that idea that small town folks know everybody is not 100% these days, because people don't talk to anybody anymore. And especially when they're so spread out like that. And if it's a house that has seen new people every 6 months to a year because of jobs coming in and out or things, they're not paying attention. They don't care.
No, and you're talking about Appalachia there, and the mining industry. Not that I think that the mining industry is not something that should go bye-bye. If you people, nevertheless, they are in a depressed state and need a lot of help, and so those that are still there are diehards, and local diehards in small towns. I'm from a relatively small town myself, whose industry was nuclear bombs. So there's not much call for making plutonium triggers anymore. Not in this country, anyway. India, maybe, and Pakistan, one of these days.
Boom.
Yep. Well, because the population density is so little, it probably hurt anybody.
So I wanted to ask you real quick, because Keel, I think, first turned Stefan and I on to the idea of ultra-terrestrials, but you also talk quite a bit about it in Secret Cipher. The thought that extraterrestrial and ultra-terrestrial are exclusive. They're not one and the same, or different names for the same thing. Can you just, elaborate more on your thoughts on the whole ultra-terrestrial idea? And, are they the grays? Were they forced underground and mutations of years of
humans
or what? Just.
I don't think any of these places are actually underground. I think there are underground portals to otherwhere, to other brains, BRANES, according to the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, or are doorways to other realms. And why they are in caves, I don't know, but that is one of the common things. Also on the top of mountains, also in desert settings, which may account for a lot of religious phenomena. But having said that, I'm not really sure whether there is anything to the notion of extraterrestrial visitations because of the vast distances involved. However, if you take the notion of ultra-terrestrials being things or entities from other realms, it isn't too far-fetched to say maybe distances aren't as great, between maybe they are places where they can use wormholes. So there may be some extraterrestrial component. But here's my deal on that. Why, in 1947, was the first thing that people jumped to, these must be extraterrestrials? It was... None of these things were seen coming in from deep space like that Oumuamua, whatever.
Yeah. I don't know how to pronounce it either.
No, that's the correct pronunciation. I just don't. I don't think it was a spacecraft. But it was interesting that it looked like the cylindrical UFOs. In any case, Oumuamua. I'm wearing a Hawaiian shirt, so it gives me magical Hawaiian words. Come back and tell us what it's all about. It left its COVID here as a gift. The herd, as it were, but they're misunderstood. But in all seriousness, it's one of my sociological questions about the whole ufology related phenomena. Why do things that are seen on the Earth or near the Earth, why is it a leap towards, they used to say Mars, and now Mars is sort of discounted, so now they say from other star systems or whatever. And I even think some of these entities say they're from other star systems, which could be disinformation very easily.
Yeah.
There's no evidence whatsoever of extraterrestrial visitations. It doesn't look like there may be some life on one of the moons of Jupiter or Europa is a good possibility, but whether it's complex life,
Right.
It's just not likely. If it comes from some other star system, the distances are enormous. And it's not like that wasn't true in 1947. It's even true now. But people immediately went to, it's either natural phenomena, hoaxes, or spaceships from outer space.
All right, so please make sure to tune in next week to get part 2.
Yep.
Thank you, Alan. I'll be thanking you again next week, too. What an absolute pleasure this is. I cannot wait for you guys to hear part 2.
Just an all-around, just a great engagement conversation. I was talking to my wife this morning about the interview or the discussion, and I said it's just amazing how within like 30 seconds we just clicked, the three of us. Just
he's such a huckster and a jokester,
right.
just like us. And if I could take away anything from that, was that he reminded me so much of us on how we love to make light of things and have a blast and joke around, and but at the same time, these things are very serious to us. And it's just
the thought that if you joke about something, it somehow lessens the importance of it, I think is a misthought, because it's just because you joke about something doesn't mean that you care about it any less.
Yeah, absolutely. I make fun of the theologian all the time, but I still love him.
Yeah.
And so, again, thank you, Alan. Make sure to tune in next week, guys, for part 2. I do want to tell you guys, we are looking forward to coming soon, I think in like a week or two. Us and Santosh are going to be traveling to Point Pleasant.
That's the plans, provided they don't lock down the country again.
Yeah, well, even then, I'm going to stand outside with a mask, because we were wanting to do this back in April, and didn't get to happen. So we're going to be Mothmaning it up, hopefully hanging out with Joe Perdue. He's going to show us some sights, and I'm just really, really excited about this. The three of us are going to go out there, check out some stuff, check out the museum, all to prepare for our Mothman episode that we have been holding off on for quite some time. I'm just so excited. We're gonna try to find some UFOs while we're there, and maybe even do some other things. I did just see that Asheville is only like 10 minutes off of the path.
Yeah,
on the way.
That far.
Yeah, on the way. So we could stop in
Swing
Asheville.
Through.
Yeah. So there's a lot of cool stuff that we can do. I know Santosh is super excited to be involved with us on this. And Alan Greenfield is a part of this, because all of that is kind of ties to Hellier and getting into Mothman Prophecies. And if you listen to last week's episode, you know that all of that is a part of our journey.
Right.
So I'm very, very pumped for that.
Yep, it's going to be, number one, road trips are always fun.
Yes.
So I can't wait to kind of hear some of the discussion that the three of us get into in just the road trip portion of the weekend. But yeah, it's going to be a great time. And of course, you'll get to hear about all of that stuff as part of our Mothman episode. It won't just be a coverage of Mothman. It'll also be a coverage of our trip that we take out to Point Pleasant. So.
Absolutely. So I want to move into our listener story before we get out of here. Our listener story this week comes from a woman named Tiandra, and it is portrayed, again, by our very, very good friend Nayoma Miller. She is a good junkie of all things paranormal and psychic, as well as one half of the amazing band Lavender Thieves, which you can find on Spotify. They have an amazing album, so go check that out. But this week's story comes from Tiandra, and check it out.
My name is Tiandra Robart, and I live in Massachusetts. I know this sounds crazy, but I am pretty sure I have been experiencing astral projection. It all started when I was younger, probably about 7 or 8. It was me and my little brother. We were supposed to be in bed sleeping, but he kept coming into my room, and we were just being silly. He kept running back and forth from his room to my room. He'd pop back in, he'd leave. He did this probably about 10 times, and on the 10th time, I guess we were a little too loud, and we woke up our parents, and my dad came in and was just yelling at us, and he put him back in his bed. And he was like, "Go to bed!" And we were like, "Okay, fine." So a few minutes after my dad went back into his bedroom, I saw my little brother come back into my room, but he looked weird. He was fuzzy and staticky looking. And I told him, I was like, "You need to go back to your room because Dad is going to spank you again." So I got up to go and walk him back to his room, and he disappeared right in front of me. I ran into the hallway and I didn't see him, so I went into his room, and there he was, fast asleep in his bed. What? Now I know that sounds crazy, but not only did I see my brother doing astral projection, I actually have personal astral projection stories of my own. When it happened to me, it was very strange, and I felt like I wasn't alone. So we lived in this creepy apartment building. At night we would hear a woman, and she would be crying and yelling out hello. Things would move, and at nighttime my cats would go absolutely nuts. They would just be running around the house, staring at things, meowing. It was crazy. So we decided to put a camera up, and we caught a few things on it. One night, I was in bed. I do not remember falling asleep. All I remember is being in a state of sleep paralysis, which is absolutely terrifying. My room became this ugly greenish gray color, and it felt as if someone was watching me. And so I went to turn my head to see, and my pillow was pulled out from under my head. Just as the pillow is about to fully come out from under my head, I find myself standing over my bed with the pillow in my own hand. I have never been able to explain this well because it was so weird. But I remember standing there in a paralyzed state, unable to move, for at least 3 minutes. I was watching myself. I pulled my own pillow out. Has anyone else experienced anything like this?
Wow. So I would love to be able to do that. I mean, that's like one of the things I'm going for, right? Is to be able to astral.
What's interesting is her astral projection was able to become corporeal, essentially.
Yeah.
To physically grab something, which is something I've not heard of yet.
Yeah.
And that's what's scary and cool about that.
Yeah. Almost like a different level of manifestation.
Right, because it almost makes you wonder, are some of the hauntings and things like that, are those just astral projections? If they're able to move things and do things, is it just accidental astral projections? Is that why it mostly happens at night, because people are sleeping, and that's when astral projection tends to happen a lot?
Yeah. Makes you, I mean, and it doesn't even have to necessarily be, members of your family or household. It could be your neighbor accidentally astral projecting and wandering into your house.
Yeah, I just don't know. It definitely opens some thoughts that I hadn't had before.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to have to really think on that and see if I can expand on that a little bit.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any astral projection stories? Send those to us, please. Or just your normal haunting stories or any UFO sightings or anything strange, weird, Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, I don't care, Jersey Devil, hey! Any of those sites, send those to us. You can send those to us at fearscapepodcast@gmail.com, or you can get onto our website, fearscapepodcast.com. I just said that again. There you can go to submit a report, and you can send that to us. in there and let us know whether you want to be anonymous or not. Send us your stories. But we're also collecting things. And we also have a phone number, too, don't we, Josh, that people can call in or text us with those stories?
Yep. If you actually browse to FearScapePodcast.com on your mobile device, there's in the menu there actually lists the phone number. We don't have the phone number listed on the main desktop site. I'll work on doing that, but actually on the mobile site you can get to a phone number there, and you can text us, you can call, leave a voicemail message, and it'll get transcribed as a text type message. And that's another way that you can pass along your information, your sightings,
even texting us pictures and of that. We've had a few people do that already that have sent us some UFO pictures and some things like that. A lot is happening on our website along that lines. We're also trying to collect data, of course, so please send in your sightings on whether it be UFO, cryptid, ghost, or whatnot.
Yeah, or any of the above, or all of the above.
Or all of the above, yeah. Send those in. Check out our new SocialScape on the website as well. It's a way for you to connect with other blanket huggers to discuss and talk about all things paranormal. It's a really great aspect to our website that we're trying to grow and build right now, and we'd be very interested to have a way for us all to meet up, because not everybody's on Facebook,
Yep.
And so
and also, if you're out there looking at SocialScape or filling out a sighting report, check out our store. We have some amazing great t-shirts that are out there. We're pretty much, I'd say we're adding a new design a week at this point.
For sure. For sure.
And so we have some really good some ideas that are coming and flowing. And so every little bit helps us, helps the show, helps us bring you content, do the research that we need to do. Don't forget to check out our YouTube channel, which is FearScape Media. We've got, every podcast that drops is also available on YouTube. We've got some FearScape Unhinged out there. We're going to be bringing now some paranormal tech, which are reviews of technology that, we used to do the show, technology that we used to do our own investigations,
ghost hunts, and
anything from an app on a phone to an actual physical technical device that we use. So we got a lot of irons in the fire, so to speak, and we'd like for you to be able to join us on as many of those as possible.
Absolutely, and your support is key by buying t-shirts and helping us, or even going to our Patreon page, which you can get through the website as well. Hitting up our Patreon page and becoming a patron of FearScape to help us. So far, we're heading to Point Pleasant. We're going to be doing big things, all this stuff, and your support is key. And there's lots of great things that'll be coming for Patreon. The more and more we see some movement on there, and just taking care of all of you guys with some amazing stuff that it will be Patreon only. But anyways, trying to get off that soapbox. Yep. Thank you guys so much for tuning in as usual, and I cannot wait for you to hear part 2 of Alan Greenfield. Alan, I know you're listening. Thank you so much for giving us the time and all this stuff, but we got to get out of here so that we can, eat food and be normal people with our wives before we put our tin hats on in the evening.
Right.
So we'll go ahead and get out of here. This has been Stefan, and I will catch you on the flip side.
This has been Josh. The truth is out there.
And remember, folks, hold those blankets extra tight, because things tend to get spooky when you're listening to FearScape. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
I'm so glad you were able to join us for that horrifying discussion. I hope they didn't frighten you too much. Tune in next week for even more research into the nightmarish and haunting creeps and spooks that we tell ourselves don't exist, but we know they do. Make sure you have your blankets, that you hold them extra tight. Next time on FearScape.